You know, there's a saying that says we teach what we most need to learn. And so when we're talking about people in a state of doing and constant doing, as opposed to being that human being, I can relate to it. I can relate to it. And it's been something, one of my, and I don't want to call it a struggle because I don't believe in struggle. I think in life is intended, and the things that we face are just intended to help us learn and become a better us. But this has been something that's been ongoing for me to just really learn to balance between being a human being and a human doing. A lot of us are out there and we're just in perpetual motion. We're moving nonstop, just always doing something. And it's so interesting because it's so many of us do it that it's become the norm. We don't recognize that that's not our default setting, and that we were not created to be someone just in constant motion and doing things. That's why we're called human beings. We were created to just be, and this whole ideal of motion and doing and thinking was supposed to be just a small part of the picture, but we've made it a huge part of the picture. I like to, and those of you who are on Periscope can see this graphic that I'm going to show you. And those of you who are on the call, you can always go to my YouTube channel at Dr. Rose Moulton on YouTube and watch this video playback too, so you can see the graph that I'm about to show. And again, I invite all of you guys to subscribe to my YouTube channel. But we were, and I share this graph, or this, I should say, this visual, and hopefully you guys can see it online. I share this visual when I do workshops oftentimes. We were created to be, like, again, human beings, and the majority of our awareness, the majority of our hours, the majority of our day, the majority of our life was intended to be spent being, meaning just being connected to our world, to our universe, being consciously aware of ourselves and of others, feeling connected. This whole ideal of doing and thinking was supposed to be a small part of the plan. And you've heard me say this before, for strategy and for planning, doing and thinking is understandable. We have to do it at times. But what we've done, we flipped the script. So our majority of our waking hours, a majority of our life is spent doing. It's spent doing in this state of unconscious awareness, automatic living and automatic thinking, disconnectedness, and this ideal of being has become just such a small part of our awareness. And that's why we feel so much discontent. That's why I have so many people coming to my offices, because they feel disconnected. It's not our natural state. It's not our default setting. Those of you who have pets out there, you know, pets are a perfect example. Pets and children. Pets are another child. I have a pet here. He's right here next to my desk, always next to me, but they are another child if you have one. But pets and children are perfect examples of creatures who know this and who get this, because they are in a state of constant, like, being. When kids are playing and when kids are enjoying themselves, or when dogs are just going about their daily routine, they're being. B-E-I-N-G. They're not doing. Dogs are not sitting up there worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. Kids, you know, if kids are allowed to be kids, aren't just in a state of constant flux and worry. It's us who have kind of just really lost touch with that and allowed our default setting to be one of constant angst and movement. And why do we do that? So I want to talk about why we have so much just that ideal of that we have to move. And I took a few notes this morning that I want to make sure I touch on everything that came to mind last night. But we're in this constant state of doing because of fear. Really, it's a fear of the what ifs, the fear of, if I don't do this, then this may happen in the future, and that creates anxiety. Or if I don't do this, and if I don't keep busy doing this, this may happen again, something that happened in the past, and that creates, again, this feeling of angst and this tendency to believe that we have to be in constant motion, because if we don't, something's going to happen. And what that causes is this fight or flight syndrome within us to activate. Now, what is the fight or flight? Fight or flight, we've all experienced it. It's a physiological state. So when you're faced with something that's a danger or a threat to you, think about what happens. Your heart starts beating, your mouth gets dry, your palms may get sweaty, your breathing becomes shallow, because you're setting yourself up to either fight off a threat or to flee away, to run away from a threat. The problem is that we are not in a state of, we're not threatened. You know, we're not threatened for the most part. It's a very small part of our lives where we can actually be threatened. And I know threats are real, but we tell ourselves through this sense of just being this human doing and constantly doing stuff that we are always under attack and we're always being threatened. So we have to be on guard. And so part of this ideal of always doing is our defenses to protect us against something that we really don't need to be protected against. The risk in that is that it causes so many emotional and also physiological problems, hypertension, heart disease. The majority of illnesses that take us out today are illnesses that are chronic and caused by just this perpetual stress state, this fight or flight state. Again, this human doing, this ideal that we have to just always be in a mode of just getting things done. We've replaced this sense of conscious awareness, and I liken conscious awareness to being connected to like God, connected to your God sense. We've replaced that with this just fear and this anxiety and this angst. And it's become so foreign to us, this ideal of just being able to be, that we just think is not normal when we see a person who's able to do that. You know, we don't see it as the norm. And everybody else around us is doing, so it has to be the norm, right? So my desire for myself, for you as well, is to learn how to put the being back in human. Put the being back in human. And I see Divine System says tap, 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 and those hearts coming up because I know this resonates with you guys. So how do we do that? And before I get to the how we put that, I want to just share a story that was shared to me by a young lady a few months ago. She talked about her ex-husband. It was her ex-husband, but he was dying. You know, he was in end stage of a terminal illness. And she talked about how she had been going to visit him. They had a lot of strife, didn't have the best relationship, but in his last days, she wanted to just spend some time with him. And she talks about how nice he was, you know, how this guy who had spent so much time, which was partly contributed to their divorce and the end of their marriage, just being in a constant state of anxiety and angst and meanness and, you know, this cantankerous attitude, was just a different person. He was just, it was like he had removed all of that and was just connected. He was just being. He was pleasant. He was aware. He had accepted what was going to happen. And I found that very interesting because oftentimes what I hear is that people in the face of illness, terminal illness, or you know, some type of despair, are oftentimes forced to be. They are forced to be. All of this doing and angst is like gone, and they're forced to kind of just go within. The thing is, we don't want to have you get to that point for you to appreciate the beauty of being. We don't want you to have to face a terminal illness or have to have some type of catastrophic occurrence happen in your life for you to just be comfortable in just being and being. So what can we do to take all this doing attitude out of our lives and put more being in there so we can get back to this graft here, you know, being human beings, not humans doing and thinking, but humans who are consciously aware, of it. So understand that doing creates noise, anxiety, fear, angst, bondage, uncertainty, whereas a human being creates peace, enlightenment. There's a sense of awareness, consciously awake, I see Divine System says. Connectedness, knowing, and freedom. Freedom was one of the #1 words. The group that I'm leading this year on the journey of personal transformation said they want to achieve freedom. And this is what part of that just beingness allows us to do. So some ways that you can do that. One of the ways is to learn, like I've talked about before, to be in the present. Be in the present, living in the now. And I see Lanita says she's working toward all of that. And keep, just move toward it. We'll talk about that. But being in the now, and that's chapter 2 of my book, Bloom 7 Steps to Personal Transformation, talks about living in the now. And just so you know, it's still available on Amazon for Kindle download for $1.99 for those of you who have your readers. But we find ourselves in a constant state of doing as a result to our connection to our past, like I said, or the fear of what's going to happen in the future. So learning to just be in the present moment, connecting with the present moment. So last night I had so much going on. It was such a busy day, getting ready to go out of town. And those of us know even before we go on vacation, there's a lot to take care of, especially if you have young children. And I was in here working and trying to get some things off. And my daughter came in and she just wanted to share something with me. And my first instinct was to, shoo her away because I need to get this done. And then I just stopped and said, you know what? I'm going to take a few moments and just be present with her. Whatever it is she wants to share, be present, be engaged. And those are the things that we can do day in and day out. Just take moments out. So when you find yourself feeling disconnected, anxious, whatever, take a moment and just be. Be still. Be still and just allow yourself to be in that moment. And one of the techniques you can use, and I share this with clients, and this is the third step in the Bloom personal transformation step, is to make sense of your senses. So what I mean by that is that it's so important for you. Take a few minutes out every day if you can to just tap into your senses. What are you feeling? To ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And take a moment and be still. And a lot of people have problems, Glendora, with taking a moment and being still. So this is a great technique. This is a great technique to help people to be still. And this technique is really connecting to your senses. So you sit still and you ask yourself, you do a survey. What am I hearing right now? And so just really tune in. This is part of being. Tune into what you're hearing. And if you're not hearing something pleasant, maybe put some music on, some pleasant music on. What am I seeing right now? As I sit here, it's still dark where I am in the morning, but if I were in a state of flux, maybe I would look outside and just look at the snow falling and focus on that. That's being. That's allowing yourself to be. Or what am I smelling? Sometimes aromatherapy has been proven to be very effective in helping a person just stay present. All of those things, just really tapping into your senses. And I talk about more of that on some of my videos on my YouTube channel and in my book as well. And also learning the fact about being connected. Ask yourself, so this constant state of perpetual movement is a desire to just be connected. We all want to feel connected to something, guys. That's this desire that we have in us. When you feel just a dis-ease or uneasy, it's a desire to connect to something, because we know at the basic core of our being, we know we are so much bigger than we have that we've made ourselves to be, okay? We're so much bigger than that. We know that we are divine. We know that we are consciously aware. We know that we are connected to our higher power, but we've lost that connection. And it's not lost. We've more so become unaware of it. And so part of these techniques brings that awareness back to the forefront, and it allows you to be as opposed to just be doing. So ask yourself, what is it that I want to connect to in all this angst, in all this desire to get things done, in all this desire to achieve, and all this desire to succeed? What is it really that I'm wanting to connect to? Is it security? Because if it's security, you can take a few moments out right now and feel secure, even if it's wrapping yourself up in a blanket. Because I know I spent last weekend wrapped up in a blanket and it felt so good. It felt so secure. Or even if it's just giving your child a hug or your significant other a hug, that can give you immediately a sense of security. And that taps into your being. Is it freedom that you seek? Because if it's freedom, do something that makes you feel free. And that can be something, again, as simple as run around the house naked. I don't care, whatever it is that makes you feel free. Go outside and jump in the snow if you're somewhere where there's snow and make a snow angel. But you want this sense of freedom. Do what you can do now to tap into these emotions. Not wait until this moment in the future that you believe is going to bring you this. Create that moment for yourself now. If it's love that you want, create the love around you. Connect. So guys, it's so necessary for us to tap back into the beingness of our humaneness and really start to become aware of how much time we spend in this doingness, because it's the doingness that creates the disease. It's the doingness that creates the unhappiness, the despair. It's the doingness that creates all of those emotional set points that don't feel good to us. And all we have to do is get back to the being. Get back to the being. Really protect ourselves or fight against that whole fight or flight tendency that we have within us that is really spearheading and fueling our just manic state that we're in all day. Fight against that. You don't have to, you have to understand that these threats that we fear internally are not real. Right here, right now, at this moment, everyone on this broadcast on Periscope, everyone on this line, everyone watching me on YouTube right now, you're okay. You're okay. You're able to just be right here in this moment. So if you're feeling anxiety, angst, sadness, despair, all of those things that don't make us feel good, remind yourself right here, right now, in this moment, you're fine. And you can find that comfort. You can find that feeling of just being and being connected in the moment at any time you want to. We just have to understand, like I said, this is not our default setting. What we've put ourselves into with this constant sense of movement and angst and anxiety is not our default setting. You know how our computers have default settings? We have them too. The problem is we've set them to a default setting that's going to create viruses in our lives through illness and emotional despair. So I want you guys to recalibrate yourself. Create a new default setting for yourself. One of being consciously aware, one of being connected. And I guarantee you guys, if you try this, if you try these things, you will see a change in just your life and the circumstances and the things that you attract in your lives. Trust me. You know, if you don't have my book, good, I talk about this, Bloom 7 Steps to Personal Transformation. Again, available on Amazon for $1.99 downloads, or you can get the book as well for a discounted price the first month of January. But guys, it's time. It's time for us to really tap into the power within and allow ourselves to reap all the rewards that come from that, because it's no better feeling in the world than just being emotionally healthy, physically healthy, and they're connected. So try these things, guys. If you have questions for me or comments for me, please be sure to reach out to me. Join my In Full Bloom with Dr. Rose page on Facebook, or my Dr. Rose and Bloom fan page on Facebook, or my website, drrosemoulton.com. There's a section you can reach out directly to me and share your experiences. I want to know, I want you guys to get out there today and just be. And I want you to share with me on social media what it felt like, and what are some things that you did that allowed yourself to just be. So get out there and start being and living your life in full bloom.